Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Ashley Goodwin, and you're here with Inside DEI. And today we have Augusto Aragone, General Counsel for Ingram Micro. How you doing today, Augusto?
I'm doing all right. Happy to be here, Dr. Goodwin.
Welcome, Augusto. We are so happy to have you here today. Can you tell the audience about what you do here at Ingram Micro?
Sure. I'm the General Counsel at Ingram Micro, and I head the legal, ethical compliance, and physical security functions, together with a team of about 100 and plus professionals. We take care of advancing the interests of Ingram and protecting the organization from traps for the unwary.
Thank you again. So, I have a question before we get started. Are you ready?
I think I am.
Let's talk inclusion. And the first question I have for you is, can you tell me what you think it means to belong and what's your personal definition?
As you know, that's a good question. When I think about belonging, I think about safety and being with people where I assume good intent from the get go, right? And so I could be myself. To me, belonging, it's when I picture belonging, I envision at a personal level sort of a Sunday lunch with the family, and it's kind of messy and chaotic, and we go through ups and downs, and having a pasta or some messy type of food. And so to me, belonging is captured by that sort of moment.
Thank you, Augusto. That was very impactful. You said some really insightful words here when you talk about safety. And a lot of times, individuals don't think about safety in terms of our physical and our psychological safety. Can you tell me what associates can do to foster belonging and inclusion in the workplace?
It requires a degree of openness and willingness to inquire, and curiosity, right? Because I don't think there's belonging without first trying to understand other people, right? And for that, you have to be open, and you have to ask questions with intent to listen, right? Which is easier said than done. Sometimes we're all thinking about the question just to hear us talk, and not thinking about what the other person is responding to us. So it's that willingness to engage, that openness to jump into a discovery session as you get to know other people, and that requires that you put your bias, or try to put your bias to the side. Not an easy thing to do. We always struggle with our biases. The important thing is to acknowledge them, and know that they exist, and they're there, and give them the right measure. But inclusion to me and diversity requires that sort of broad opening of our mental space, and that's all easier said than done.
So, Augusto, you said something there that really piqued my interest. You said discovery. And again, oftentimes when you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, that's not really what comes to mind. So, that aspect of self discovery is crucial in the aspect of belonging. Can you give me some insights around what you mean by self discovery?
Sure. So, we think about diversity, and we think about openness and engagement, and we always think about others, right? I think in the end, we're learning about ourselves, and without, being open to kind of unlearn certain things and learn other things, and be willing to go a bit of a down the rabbit hole sometimes. You won't have true connection, true connectivity, and that connection, I think, is what gives you that sense of belonging, right? But it's a mental process that requires you to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. And again, it's a bit of a cliche, but that's home to me. Home doesn't mean free of challenge, right? Being with your parents is not free of challenge. Being with your siblings is not free of challenge. Being with your spouse is not free of challenges. But it's a healthy challenge that helps you grow. So I would not equate that openness and that willingness to discover with just having a great time. There might be a great time, there might be a tough time, and that's still part of belonging, right? Because you bond through good times and sometimes difficult times as well.
You have said some really, really impactful things here today, and I know our audience can really appreciate that. Something very powerful that you said to me that I would be remiss if I didn't mention is a quote from yourself that I'd like to quote you if that's okay. I think that it's important to give people their flowers and not just to write down things that they're saying, but to let individuals know that their words have power and that they're important to others. They can empower and inspire people to be their authentic selves. And something that you said really rang true to me. You said that home doesn't mean you are without challenge. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means? And also, can you tell me how your diverse experience has helped shape you to be the executive you are today?
So my experience, which looks very you know rational in a resume, but it's anything but. It's informed by the fact that I lived in three countries. I learned languages from a very young age, not knowing really why I was learning them. My mom was telling me just learn them, and that helped me understand and learn about other cultures and the different ways of thinking. I was lucky to be born in Uruguay, down in South America. I lived in Italy for about a year. I went to law school as well in Uruguay, Italy, and the U.S. And and I started in the logistics and sales organizations, not at Ingram, in the logistics industry. And so all those experiences, at the time, I didn't know how that skill building experience was gonna help me. And then over time, you start seeing how kind of you pull things from different sides of your toolbox, and they've been incredibly helpful to help me keep an open mind as we age, hopefully somewhat gracefully. Keeping an open mind it's one of the most difficult things in my opinion. And so that broad exposure to different cultures, different ways of approaching problems, and different ways of thinking and different interests keeps you in a non-judgment zone, which is what you need until you have enough information to process and make a decision. So all those things, in a way, without knowing, and without an apparent design from the moment I did it to, so I didn't set out to be general counsel of Ingram in the U.S. Right? That just happened through a series of opportunities and experiences and so on. But when I talk to my kids, when I talk to other young aspiring leaders, I just tell them, keep building strengths, keep building skills that are transferable, and you will learn to use them at the right time, and they will come in handy at the right time. But keep experimenting. That keeps you energized.
Yes, it does. And thank you so much for saying that word energized, because I truly believe that energy is essential to diversity, equity, inclusion. Oftentimes, individuals are pulled in so many different directions. It can be emotionally taxing if they don't have the right words to say, or more training is needed. Advocacy and allyship become a factor, and you really have to get creative in this space to keep that energy going. And part of the reason why I have been successful over a decade in this DEI space is because of my creative background. My creativity and innovation background has helped me really approach the diversity space and problems with new and fresh ideas to conventional notions. So, thank you so much for that. And to wrap up, I have a creative question for you. If you had to add three ingredients in your diversity, equity, inclusion pot, what would those three ingredients be?
That's a good question. I I think you need an intense sense of curiosity, to because that is underpinned by openness and a bunch of other things that are enablers of diversity. So um, and then willingness to experiment. We all have to be, I think, willing to do things, and we may suck at it, right? It's not going to be our calling, it's not going to be our profession, but just going back to your comment about thinking like a child, right? That is super important to channel creativity, that because you bring down, you have to unlearn a bunch of things. So willingness to experiment, I would say. And the third one is, you know, someone as much understanding as you can before getting to a judgment, and that will probably serve you well.
And thank you so much for that, because diversity, equity, inclusion is truly a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we are on our first lap around. And I'm so excited to continue this journey with additional laps so we can come together, be kinder to one another, and be more creative in this space of belonging.
Thanks so much for having me, Ashley. It's great talking to you as always.
Augusto, thank you again. And let's be undeniably inclusive.